Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rational Investors Daily Brief Recap. 10 minutes of frivolity here for you today. We probably don't need to spend too much time on the broader market. Not a heck of a lot's changed here, but in essence, US dollar index, which is sort of like our benchmark to be following the broader currency space. We're at a pretty interesting little inflection point here. Hearing lots of talk that the Fed is kind of dropping the ball and more political pressure to get rid of Powell. In essence, Mr. Trump talked about that he doesn't like the fact that the U.S. dollar index is as strong as it is. He'd like to see the U.S. dollar index lower. But at the same time, too, and I don't know whether we went into detail into it yesterday, but the Chinese currency is breaking down in earnest. And a lot of the world currencies are also continuing lower, especially those in Europe. So we're coming up to an interesting inflection point here on the US dollar index. My hunch is we've got this cute little consolidation. And whichever way this could be a nice little bearish flag, AB equals CD. We might even drill down to something like a 4-hour if it's available. Yeah, you can sort of see that bot setup playing itself out. We don't necessarily trade the US dollar index in particular, but if this thing does break down, I'd be looking for other currency markets that are strong of late to continue. And on that note, if we look at something like the Japanese yen, and of course our gold yen scenario, we've talked lots about that recently. You can see how the yen has broken to new highs here. So it just looks to me like if US dollar index does break down in earnest, it means more money is going to be flowing into things like the Japanese yen. And we also talked about that recently, too. I mean, they say volume speaks volumes, and look at all this buying pressure. I mean, this is extremely strong buying pressure. So things like OBVs and stuff probably are all going absolutely crazy here. So, European currencies, there's still a heck of a lot of weakness out of the euro. It has enjoyed a nice little counter trend rally. We might get a nice little bull flag that takes us up top. I don't think it's necessarily euro specific, more sort of like anti-US dollar. So yen is pointing higher, and those people that are interested in long proxies, things like Julian's Thai baht, probably pointing higher as well. And if anything, it's probably just a relief rally, counter trend rally on things like the euro and the British pound. Nonetheless, US dollar index is at an interesting little inflection point here. If we break these lows, like I showed you on that chart just a second ago, it wouldn't surprise me if this is like a bearish bot. And you can see the AB equals CD starting to form here. So we can go AB, and maybe change that to yellow, and go CD. And if we break, then basically it's painting down into this 96.25 area, which to a certain degree also sort of validates that gold moving higher thesis as well. Moving on, stocks, a lot of headline talk the other day about, if we change this to things like, even off the daily charts, this was a huge turnaround day. Keep in mind, we opened up down here lower, came down against these lows, and we've talked about this recently, just a nice simple reload zone concept. Reload zone. So not shocking that stocks turn through here. Big dead cat bounce, and I might even argue that really this is just a lot of fluff. Probably has a lot to do with those options expiry from the previous week. And notice our good old buddy Mountain Man came along and stopped the bull in its tracks. Where the hell are we? There we are. So boink, you can see 61.8 did its job. Right now in the stock market, we're painting a nice inside bar. If we finish the day without exploring higher or lower of the range, then we'll probably set up a nice little sell signal if we happen to go through those lows tomorrow or the following days. So keep your eye open for that. And of course, this was a V bottom. V bottoms usually like to be tested. Moving on, the sort of counter stock market proxy, and we've been following these correlated markets very closely of late. You can see here Japanese yen. You've heard me talk lots about yen gold. You can see how they're highly, highly correlated. Yen pushing to new highs. Gold, of course, has pushed to new highs. Interesting how gold's come into a 1.618 here. And also, too, what I noticed, if I can take just a moment here and show you this, I thought this was really interesting. Where are we here? Maybe I have it up top here. What am I trying to find here? I think it's the sector ETFs. I noticed that we had a really cool high-low trend line. Oh, got the wrong one. Oh, no, I didn't. Here it is. Really cool high-low trend line. Of course, you can clearly see off of this entire range. This is the Philadelphia Gold and Silver Stock Index. You can see how we rallied right up into reload zones. But what really caught my attention this morning was this high-low trend line that was drawn quite a while ago off of this key pivot low and this key pivot high. You'll notice that basically we rallied right up, tagged it, and then started to flounder right in that reload zone. And my hunch too is if we probably throw on things like momentum oscillator, sure enough, MACD is actually in divergence and Willie is stupid. So really, we could make an argument. We have location, we have indicator confirmation. Really, all we need is a big fat M here and look out below. Don't really want to go into too much detail over that, but I did want to mention that. So the point that I would just make here is that if these markets are still correlated, we've got the bonds moving up here, coming up into their 1.618. You can see the gold hit its 1.618. Maybe the yen has one more sort of final blow off top move here up into his. But I am noticing, and I'm a bit surprised, that Bitcoin, if these are still highly correlated, Bitcoin's kind of floundering here. And really, Bitcoin should be quite a bit higher if these are all still highly correlated. So let's keep an eye out for that. On the price chart itself, just mentioning this, we might be topping out here. And really, you can see this market has come an awfully long way. This sure felt like a parabolic move up here. We didn't have the yield curve invert, which is a good sign. But I think on balance, we can just make the argument that this is probably a nice 38.2. Boom. Yep, so 38.2. What a shock. So if we do happen to M out here and the market does start smiling at us and we lose a good old raise level, terrible smile, I know, then it means that we're probably back into cleanup mode. And things like the yen and the gold and Bitcoin probably too, we'll have to take a bit of a pause. One idea, and actually this is kind of cool because I do like the correlation here. Of course, we've talked lots about how gold and oil move in opposites. This is a uranium name. I'd like to give everybody something to chew on a daily basis. This was one of our VCIM names from back at the end of 2018. We did pick up some stock at 25 here, so I don't really need to buy any more. But I really do like this W that's coming in. And of course, if we believe in the thesis that gold and oil move opposite, then if we're seeing, and it's still a little too early now, but if we're seeing things like bonds, gold, yen, Bitcoin top out, then we probably are going to see some sort of bottom in oil and energy, and uranium names look really interesting in here. And here's one that's a VCIMer. It's nice and cheap. It's only 16 cents. So if you happen to be in Canada, this is a name you might want to take a good look at. Moving on over to crypto. Bitcoin here, we talked about this in the daily brief. Kind of no man's land right at the moment. We've done quite breakout through the top. You can see how we rallied up, hit Mountain Man, and just sort of stalling here right now. As well, we talked recently about how this was a nice trend line tag. And really, 1, 2, 3. So now we need to see a nice W on the other side of this trend line for us to actually start thinking extensions going forward. Probably the message that we got out of today, specifically, things with algo. We are actually starting to get some uber bear signals off of the algo on Bitcoin. So be careful, everybody. Interesting though, we have a bit of a disconnect. Stamp and the futures, CME futures, have not gone uber bear just yet. So we're going to be watching that really closely to see whether they join the camp. But I can definitely understand off of the OK coin and MEX markets, these forwards markets, they're starting to flash warning signs. And we talked about this recently. Here is Mountain Man. There's Brian has bought. Who is going to win this battle? Do the Bulls take over? Do the Bears take over? So far, I hate to say it, but I think the Bears are winning. But it was interesting when we talked through the daily brief today. If, and it's a big if, of course, if Bitcoin can get back up through 3, let's call it 320, a nice clean breakout through these levels, then I think the bull's still back in charge and Bitcoin can play catch up with the other markets. You notice that we have a little W trying to come in on OBV. We also have a little W trying to come in on RSI. Frankly speaking, I don't know who's going to win this right for now. The battle is still on. Mountain Man is short. I don't know whether he would have actually booked any profits just as of yet. But long and short of it here is we can't really get bullish until we resolve back up through this 12,315 area. And as I said just a moment ago, things like algos are starting to come alive. This is the OK coin 4-hour chart, and algos are starting to say, hey, be careful here. This is not an uber bullish market. This is, if anything, it's actually getting dangerous. And we might, if we M out here and lose these lows, then I think the bear takes over here. Just to finish off today's offering, we threw on Ethereum chart just to take a look at the comparison. Ethereum just has not joined the party here. And we could also make the argument that if we look at things like, where are we here? I got it on here somewhere. Here we are. If we look at things like forwards, we took a look at the forwards here this morning, looking at the spreads. You can see things like Ethereum spreads have M'd out, Litecoin spreads have M'd out. We are still technically in contango. But if we start losing the zero line level here, that's going to be very problematic. As well, and I thought it was kind of cool, one of the site members found this site, ftx.com, and they've actually created a quote-unquote shitcoin perpetual futures market. So there is actually a way to trade these altcoins now, it looks like. And, same thing as sort of the Ethereum. Lower highs and lower lows does not define a bull market, defines a bear market. So if you put it all together, it doesn't surprise me that Ethereum is weak as well. And you can also potentially start seeing things like bearish AB equals CDs. Don't really have a bot because this was a new high. So this is going to still need some more time to develop. But it doesn't surprise me that the Ethereum trade it just isn't there. And now that the Litecoin fundamental halvening event has played itself out, I hate to say it, guys, but I think the altcoins are back on the shelf here. And really what we have to do is wait for Bitcoin to sort of give us some direction here to tell us what the fate for cryptos are in the near term. Okay, I think I'm going to leave the recap at that. Hopefully we got in on time. I think that basically we've covered everything I wanted to talk about, and we'll see everybody bright and early Monday morning for another recap edition. All the best, and bye for now.